Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pinball Arcade. Let's continue. Last time we did Frankenstein. Um, just kind of an insane table in general, just having to spell Frankenstein over and over and over again for like 8 different times to do each mode. Um, Never going to be a table I would really want to play. Today we're doing No Fear, which I suppose No Fear is going to be a lot of different high speed, uh, dangerous sports types racing. Um, I guess we're not going to have one in this curation that is just skateboarding, which honestly, that would feel like that would be the 90s thing to do is skating in particular, skateboarding, and would have been it, but they didn't get it. I just saw mention of a table called Radical that focuses on skateboarding solely. But then again, maybe you don't need extreme sports to boil down to a specific sport for a pinball table. Maybe you just combine it all together. There was a No Fear clothing brand, I think is what it was, that was very popular in the 90s, so I imagine this is some cross promotion with that. See, No Fear Dangerous Sports trademark combines extreme sports with extreme pinball, 1995, created by a design team led by Steve Ritchie. This is the first time we've had anybody admit that a pinball table was dared to be produced by more than a few people, maybe two people, um, when almost certainly pinball tables for many decades have been getting more input than that, as far as who's actually designing things. And the idea of rock star pinball tables, pinball table creators, does not really ever work because the average pinball player would not be able to tell you who produced a table or have a name behind it. Not like you would be able to name Steven Spielberg or anybody like that, any famous director. Um, Players are challenged with competing in the most daring events in the air, snow, asphalt, dirt, and water. This includes free climbing, water skiing, supercross, extreme skiing, auto racing, and more. The play field features excellent flow with easy to follow shots and a talking skull who calls out what to aim for. I wish more of the pinball tables had good call outs to tell you what to shoot for. The magnetic ball accelerator sets players up to take a flying leap across the jumper Ebbs void. A little danger makes it a lot of fun. 4,540 units of this table were produced. And honestly, by 1995 standards, even being able to produce 4,000 units is way better than a lot of the other tables. We've been seeing tables manage to make 2, maybe 3,000 units before the inevitable crash happened. And it does kind of strike me as though the pinball crash, no plunger, just a button, launcher button. It does seem like the pinball crash kind of happened fast and it wasn't just a slow grind into nothingness. And the eventual slight resurgence of a few pinball designers took a considerably slow amount of time. So here we have, let's see, 5 challenges, and then Over the Edge is on the left and the right, and then several millions and Light Extra Ball, and then No Fear in the middle, which I'm not sure that means that all of these would have to be lit up at the same time. No Limits, Meet Your Maker, Fear Fest. It's edgy for the 90s. Certainly No Fear, and but 90s edginess is not really that edgy by modern standards. So we have a sinkhole over on the left, and that angle looks fairly nice. And then we have a loop that seems like it comes all the way around. And then we have a shot here that goes up to this and then waves back this is another instance where we have ramps on top of ramps on top of ramps, it seems. See, we've got a horseshoe, it looks like, directly behind the No Fear skull, and then a center lane shot directly into a scoop or sinkhole with the talking skull. And honestly, the idea of having a talking skull probably makes more sense than having the talking heads of Red and Ted's game or Funhouse, because then this doesn't hit a level where it doesn't look human or it looks weird because it's not supposed to look human and is weird. We have another ramp that comes up here. It looks like it might drain down this way and into that lane. At least these are draining before the switches, which I prefer that in tables. Or you hit this hard enough and it goes all the way around to this point, and then you've got this top kind of third level high right flipper that you then want to hit the ball and make it jump back this way, and then by jumping back this way it goes this way and maybe can go all the way around. If you miss the hit, it seems to me like the ball drains out at the bottom here, and you can barely even see it because of this plastic rock, which really doesn't need to be there. Seems to me it would just go back that way. And there's some gates here, obviously, but I don't know where the accelerator would be really to speed this up, because it feels like you'd have to make some very hard shots to keep that going in circles. And if you miss or don't have enough power, it's going to roll backwards into that. Or if you don't have enough power to get up to this point, it's going to roll backwards into that. It's not incredibly crazy. Lots of lights for lots of different themes. And because they only have to focus a little bit around each sport, they really only have to do one art thing. It'll be interesting to see if there is a video mode that's focused on. Is there a skill shot here? Feels like maybe going up this point to this drop zone standing target in front of that might be something. That's not a captive ball alley though. So that might be what you're aiming for the skill shot. Otherwise it would be going up this ramp, and that would be asking a little bit much. Definitely see that there's a kickback on this side, no kickback on this side. And we'll kind of not have any personalities, I imagine, because I guess the general idea would be that this was focused around you, the player, being the person doing all these very different sports, which is kind of ridiculous because no one person is going to be a professional at 5 different dangerous sports at the same time. I did notice on this video there was an advertisement that popped up to say the audio was better. I imagine there were several different audio elements, audio modes, audio codecs, and audio setups that got advertised and tried. Things like DTS and Dolby Digital and Pro Logic. Things that may have really made a difference or may not. A lot of pinball tables audio does sound particularly good for its day and age. Although a lot of times the curation of what you're going to play is questionable in the first place. Here we have the flyer, and it's showing what looks like real world photos for each one of them. Air, water, dirt, asphalt, and snow feels a lot like a parody of Captain Planet. So yeah, Looks like this will be a decent table, at least at first glance. Our standard goals are to score a flipper skill shot, collect a tube award, complete a jump, activate payback time, and earn an extra ball. I wouldn't be surprised if this table actually is fairly easy. Okay, we're just warming up here. The launcher is like Star Trek The Next Generation's digital launcher, in which it's straight up just asking you what you want. And so I chose ball lock. Or lock ball. A good early pin multi-ball is a great way to warm up your fingers. Seems like I got a lot of reward at the end, loaded up fairly easily there. Start challenge, supercross level, advanced raceway, flipper skill shot, start challenge, I guess. So now we're doing the asphalt skill challenge. And we know that there's 5 challenges. There is a problem, I feel immediately, in that you have that third vertical height flipper that really makes it feel like there is a flipper on the main playfield.
Welcome to off-road racing.
So apparently I just got the tube award, and apparently that finished one challenge and started another. This is a very classic table layout. I believe this is what you would call a fan design. Just a lot of different shots. It's really great because we're not seeing any standing switches on the edges of the ramps. You either hit the very edge bumper, which you're highly unlikely to do, or you go up the ramp, which you are much more likely to do. Because most of the center shots spin around, they're controlling the angle. Notice that it is not directly up the center lane that the skull sits and the horseshoe sits, that everything is slightly angled in such a way and curved in such a way that you would have to hit one specific lane particularly weakly and roll backwards on it to have the ball drain down the center lane. And if you look at the plungers, there's plenty of room in between these flippers. These rolling flippers feel like they might be slightly smaller than average.
Player 1, welcome to the Hall
First
of
game.
Fame. Extreme.
Welcome to off-road racing. Skull.
Shoot the ramp and score big.
You can't serve 2 masters ever, and I have to wonder if, in this case, having the callouts tied to a skull screaming smoking at the certain point here might have made them want to have a little bit fewer callouts. But I guess that's not the case in this instance, because he's talking almost constantly, and if they were going to be try and be cheap, they would have some lines of dialogue where his lips don't move. There's goal 5 of getting an extra ball. We'll want to keep an eye out to see if the ball gets released through that launcher on the right too often.
Water ski.
Because
Take
it
it
does
away,
feel like
Shoot the tube for more time.
there is a lot of potential shots that are going to start with the ball being fed to the right in lane.
It's extreme
Which that's
speed.
not particularly bad anyways,
How about it,
because
bonehead?
Shoot the downhill to win.
the right flipper shots tend to be particularly good anyways. And it seems like auto fire is being flashed to indicate the ball saver, when I would have thought auto fire meant something different. Also seems like you can only lock 2 multi-balls, 2 of the 3 multi-balls through the launcher. There's kind of an interesting personalities and dynamics here that I'm noticing, that there is kind of this announcer character that is then asking the skull to be a secondary announcer.
Get moving. Reach for the summit.
This would be a very hard table for me to whine about angles on,
Extra ball.
because there's basically every single angle on this table has something
No pain.
on it.
No gain.
So it would be very weird to say, oh, the angles on this table are bad. Like, you might try to change the angle at which each ramp points towards that center dot, but I think that would be
Play better.
kind of ridiculous and untrue to complain about that, or even really try and change it. I can maybe complain about the right out lane being a little too easy.
Dynamite.
This is one of those instances where, because the alleyway is so curved, that did open up a possibility of the right out lane being too open. There's no bump there, and so maybe you could fix that a little bit.
Player 1. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. Great shot.
Not sure what I'm really supposed to be looking for or shooting for at the moment. I'm still wrapping up and warming up. Warming up, not wrapping up. But I've already had a couple of good games, and in those good games I've nearly gotten multi-ball and nearly done 3 out of the 5 missions, which does make it feel like this might be a somewhat simplistic table.
Welcome to off-road racing.
It's interesting this table has a Mark III hint, because that then implies to me that Williams tables may in general in this era be offering a Mark III hint, and that the idea of Mark III might be a Mark III version of pinball tables, not the Mark III Jackpot robot that I thought it would have meant. I have yet to really find my footing as far as understanding different computer systems running different pinball tables, because it doesn't really correlate to a one-to-one issue in my mind. I think some old tables with probably no computer circuitry can be really good, and then some other old tables are not so good. The same is true with new tables. So it's not the computer that makes the artist in pinball, I think, in particular. It's the artist that makes the computer.
Reach for the summit. Move it. Hurry up. Again. Do it again.
I'm gonna have to be better at getting shots, for sure. I'm gonna have to be very, very much better to lock
Awesome.
the angle of the right flipper
For the extra ball.
towards that ramp that I just went up, and not the ramp to the left of it or to the right of it, unless I'm ready to go those directions. Almost had a multi-ball there, and the ball knocked the other ball out of the way. This feels fairly slow. The music didn't change for multi-ball, so that doesn't feel like much of an experience.
Jackpot. Dynamite. It's payback time.
Jackpot!
Extreme.
So I've now activated payback time. Which seems like it is straight up just a high-speed mode, hurry-up mode, where everything scores.
Crash and burn.
Well, all you would have wanted to do to fix this issue is move the metal screw at the top of the divider between the in lane and the out lane a little bit higher, and I think that would have fixed a lot of issues.
Shoot the skydive.
Hey, wait now. I've never done this before. Is my parachute on? Where's my resort?
Shut up and jump. Excellent.
It's a little dangerous to promote the idea of extreme sports with callous disregard for safety.
Righteous.
But on the other hand, I think No Fear was just a clothing label and nothing more. I don't think there was ever a No Fear comic book or TV show or any characters around it other than maybe the skull mascot.
Player one.
So
Welcome
this
to
is
the
about the
Hall of
most
Fame.
of a story that you would probably ever get. So advance the raceway. The drop-down target drops down automatically by itself when you're launching the skill shot, so that the ball will always sink into that location. This is kind of a weird table, though, because it has so many ramps and yet really only a couple of them are active. So I'm at the current moment not even sure what the last one or two standard goal is, so I don't know what to shoot for.
Welcome to racing.
It feels like hitting the horseshoe on the left
Track to win the race.
is a hard shot. Feels like when you start these modes, you don't really need to pull off a lot of shots. Well, you don't really need to win at all. It just is considered complete later on.
Get out.
He slammed the door on it.
Second place is the first loser. Go for the track. Again. Awesome.
This table's going to be a lot around the idea of
Water ski.
shooting the right
How about
flipper
it, bonehead?
after it loops.
Two for more time and bigger points. Excellent.
Outstanding.
Smoking. Go for the extra ball.
Outrageous.
So extra ball is now lit, but the auto fire not lit.
Wow.
But yeah, I have like 3 missions left, 2 missions left. So 2 challenges. So you could lock a ball, advance the raceway, 640 million points.
It's a beautiful day for skydiving. What do you say, Skull?
Shoot the skydive.
Hey, wait now. I've never done this before. Is my parachute on? Where's my ripcord?
Shut up and jump. Here it comes.
Their flippers maybe could be a little bit longer. You could whine and ask for a center peg.
Take it away, Skull.
Shoot the ramp and
You could say that this table is sort of a one-note gimmick.
the ball is lit.
As much as I may hate stand-up targets, it's a little strange that there's literally only 2 on the table and 1 sink-down target. Feels like you could have potentially added captive ball instead. Yeah, somewhere or instead of one of these ramps.
Welcome
Let's actually check the standard goals. Flipper skill shot.
to the Hall
Well.
of Fame. Great shot.
Well, of course I haven't started that then. No wonder I haven't done that. Otherwise, in 27 minutes, I pretty much will have had this all done. This feels like kind of an advanced idea around like Taxi, where Taxi very much had similar angles, and that was pretty much the only thing you could do on the table is hit those ramps. Shoot the left ramp.
Do it again.
Yeah, that left lane ramp could have been more emphasized if they kind of merged one and had a gate
Take it away,
instead of
Skull.
having 4 different
Shoot the 2
shots on the
for more time
left.
and bigger points.
Yeah, get that down to 3 lanes. See, flipper skill shot. This is all just about getting the angle. There we go. That's all the standard goals. So we can just kind of continue to warm up now and play the table. So likely in the wizard goals we'll see a difficulty spike of some amount that will require a lot more of us. But I think 1 or 2 good games we might be able to get most, if not all, the wizard goals. We've still yet to get all the wizard goals on any table. There's 171 achievements still locked on Pinball Arcade, and I've unlocked 114, and we definitely don't have that many tables left to play, so I clearly would have to go back and play every single table for quite a bit. Score jump this, complete the air challenge, score super jackpot, score 100 million Fear Fest jackpot, and activate Meet Your Maker. I feel like all of these, I don't know what they do. So
Welcome to the
it's
Hall of Fame.
probably a mistake to just start playing. That being said, let's start the challenges and see if we can play well to succeed on the races and the challenges. The ball is bouncing around quite a bit. So yeah, that didn't work as well as I would have liked. And the flipper will move this forward, which I guess I haven't pointed out that is sometimes the case, is that you can use the flipper to select the menus and speed up the process instead of it being extremely slow. Barely got the ball down that sinkhole. This is a scenario where if the left ramp was a little bit wider and then sometimes the left ramp lifted up for a sinkhole, that would probably be very nice too. To just kind of have this table a less overfill of elements. Take note, we have no pop-up bumpers. Like that, the entire element is just completely missing, and it feels like there should be something somewhere around that.
Shoot the tube! This guy is crazy!
No spinner.
Go for the extra bar.
This guy is nuts!
No pain, no gain.
A table like this wouldn't be amazingly surprising if they had a sandpaper spinning part on the table to kind of randomize things. I feel like the dirt bike game that had the whole backboard second play field was so interesting as a gimmick that it's a shame nobody else ever copied it, at least in this curation. Maybe somebody else did copy it somewhere.
Off-road racing! What do you say, Skull?
Shoot the ramps and score big. Awesome!
Like, when you take the idea of no fear in extreme sports, is there something to these extreme sports and the theme around that that would obviously add an element that should be on this table that is missing from this table? Not really. Nothing immediately comes to mind, at least, other than skateboarding. That does immediately come to mind.
It's a beautiful day for skydiving. How about it, bonehead?
Maybe No Fear did not want to be associated with skateboarding or skating gear.
Shut up and jump. Faster.
95, it probably wasn't incredibly offensive to have a character say shut up, but like nowadays there's like a Rick and Morty table that I saw some playthrough for, and it's like, yeah, it's totally cussing if you set it up to the max profanity level inside the settings. It's totally cussing as much, if not more, than it would be in the Rick and Morty adult cartoon. It's not extreme and ridiculous, it's not South Park levels, but it's
extreme skiing.
a little different,
Take it away, Skull.
a little surprising.
Shoot the downhill to win.
I wouldn't, if I had the Rick and Morty pinball table, turn on profanity. I'd turn it off. Just because I imagine it's funnier to hear it bleeped. Like, I find that often the case, that the joke is funnier to hear something bleeped than it is to have something not bleeped. Unless somebody's giving a long-winded speech and it's supposed to be heartfelt and emotional. I guess that also points out that if I am hearing profanity, it's usually in a comedic setting and not an action or angry setting. So I am looking for funny. I could definitely see parents letting kids in an arcade and then telling them not to play this specific game though with a skull, allowing little kids potentially getting scared or just not being age appropriate. Definitely feels like they intentionally designed this table to be a kiss-off type design. That way, kiss-off being a phrase to just like tell the people from the beginning that this content is not for you. If you can't handle a glowing red eye skull, you aren't gonna enjoy this game. You see it very common in movies where there's a like sex scene or a highly violent scene or a lot of cussing right at the beginning of a movie to effectively have anybody who would be upset and walk out and demand a refund of their tickets to do it in the first 5 minutes of a movie while it's in the theater, versus someone being 30 minutes or half an hour or a whole hour into a movie or later and then being upset by some scene and demanding a refund when they've watched 3/4 of it. I think we gotta look at the wizard goals. The Juntas Mode highlights one of the coolest features of the playfield. Honestly, I think this feature is a lot like the high-speed supercharger mode, but worse. So a supercharger type device on it probably would make it work better, and just having it looped in by itself may be better than you having to hit the shot. Or maybe you have to do the jump the first time, but then you should have a supercharger continuing. To activate this mode, complete the cliff. Refer to the cliff chapter for detail. Each time cliff is completed, it lights the jump this right out lane. Once this is lit, it toggles between the right and left out lane, which with each hit on the slingshot here or here. Drain the ball down the lit out lane to activate jump this. This effectively saves the ball, releasing a new one to the lower right flipper. The mode has a 30-second timer. The goal is to make as many jumps as possible. Shoot the jump ramp. Feed the ball to the upper flipper. Then complete the jump this. Man, that's crazy. When air challenge is flashing and start challenge is lit, shoot the skull to activate it. The currently flashing challenge can be activated by selecting start challenge in a skill shot or by collecting start challenge in the tube award. Refer to the skill shot and tube awards for more details. The air challenge has 2 stages. The first stage is 25 million hurry up values decreasing on the display. Shoot the skydiver into that shot to lock the value on the display. If you fail to shoot the skydiver, the lock's at 10 million. Once the value is locked, the second stage begins by starting a 30-second timer and lighting all the major shots on the playfield. Shots are the screaming orbit, the jump ramp, the skydive, the left track orbit, the right track orbit, the skull, the hairpin ramp, and the summit orbit, and the tube. Completing each of these shots scores the value that was set in the first stage. Complete shots are turned off. Completing all the lit shots ends the mode and scores another 75 million. Here's a hidden feature with the air challenge. When the first stage begins with the hurry up valley display, hold the extra ball button. Interesting. And shoot the skydive before the value on the display starts to decrease. This gives the Mortal Kombat 3 hint and scores 50 million instead of 25 million. It is Mortal Kombat 3. Wow. So that's weird, because Williams here is basically ruining pinball and siding with the other side by putting out hints for Mortal Kombat 3. So somebody would see that hint and then walk away from this table and go play Mortal Kombat 3 in an arcade. Yeah, cross promotion never happened the other way. I've never seen an arcade game that says, hey, go check out this pinball table. Okay. Super Jackpot then. Not sure whether it would be the left bump or the right bump. They would be the extra ball. Lock for multi-ball. When the mode begins, score jackpot, shoot the skull to score jackpot, lights jackpot and skydive, shoot the skydive, lights super jackpot on the jump ramp. Okay. How do you get the Fear Fest? Once the 5 minor challenges have been played and the first major challenge, No Limit, ends, all the major shots on the playfield light. Each time the lit shot is completed, it collects a letter in No Fear. Each collected letter scores 5 million. Complete No Fear scores 25 and makes Fear Fest splash. Once flashing, shoot the skull to activate it. Fear Fest is a 3-ball multi-ball. When it begins, the auto fireball saver turns on for 25 seconds. When the ball saver is on, any ball that drains is relaunched. Once Fear Fest begins, jackpots light at the skull and super jackpot lights at the jump. All the major shots on the playfield remain lit. Let's see. Bunch of things you can hit. To score a Fear Fest jackpot, shoot the skull, then complete a jump, shoot the jump ramp to feed the ball to the thing, then shoot the ball over the void to complete a jump. Fear Fest jackpot starts at 5 million. Whether the jackpots are lit or not. Yeah, I still don't know how to get a Fear Fest jackpot after skipping through a lot of it. The final major challenge is to meet the maker. Once the 5 minor challenges have been played and the first 2 major challenges have been played, No Limits and Fear Fest, all the major shots on the playfield light. So, shoot a bunch of things. Shoot the skull to activate, meet your maker. It's a 4-ball multi-ball. And if we could get meet your maker to work, then that seems like that more than likely would get all the other elements done too. So, yeah, I think I generally see that your main goals here will be to just do the 5 missions. And eventually, if you can get the 5 missions and the 3 major missions after that, then you will succeed fairly well. I don't know if there's anything special around the 100 million Fear Fest jackpot, but everything else seems fairly obvious. I'm hitting the left bump and the right bump and nothing is happening.
Welcome to off-road racing.
So
What do you say, Skull?
Shoot the rams and
I'll have to try and figure out if I can remember the point at which I would need to hit that extra ball button. hitting a lot of these ramps multiple times does not seem like it would really do anything. So that's another point where if you are going to have a table that's all about hitting ramps, there should be some double up rewards for hitting a ramp 5 times. And there's definitely been some inconsistency around the idea of, do you actually accomplish anything by hitting a ramp multiple times or roundabout multiple times? Or even hitting the same shot in general multiple times. Standing targets have pretty much never given you a direct reward for hitting them twice in a row. So that's never been something I've seen anybody experiment with.
Welcome to racing. Tell them how to do it, bonehead.
Shoot the track.
It's kind of nice that none of the wizard goals actually seem to require you to succeed
What a
at any of the
driver.
missions.
Second place is the
But if I did succeed at one of the missions, then what
He takes the
what
checkered
benefit would I
flag.
get for that? It doesn't seem like much.
again.
Seems like once you have that top-down, once you have that one drop-down target down, you're then set up perfectly for locking balls, for multi-ball. And that music does not change. I kind of wonder if maybe the menu music issue is rearing its head again, and if I did have the menu music enabled, some other music or sound effects would play. Although, I also kind of appreciate the general idea of music not changing if you're actually getting into the groove and listening to it just because you start a new mode. But video games generally are not built around the idea of listening to music, so I do feel like
Welcome to the Hall of Fame.
that is the wrong idea.
Welcome to off-road racing. What do you say, Skull?
To let the music play all the way. Plus, once you start playing this for like 2 or 3 hours, you're gonna be fairly bored with the music anyways. At most, a table like this is only gonna have 2 or 3 songs. It would have made a lot of sense even in 1995 if Williams, Stern, Gottlieb all got together and decided to make an annual soundtrack. Pinball tables would have been so expensive that you could have put a off-the-shelf CD player inside of it and mail the CD
Skull?
every year, or even more often, to every pinball owner to upgrade the music that would play. Of course, there might be a pretty big danger of people stealing CD players out of the inside of a pinball machine in 1995, portable CD players. Nowadays, you would just have a streaming radio service and connect each table to the internet.
This guy is smooth.
I suppose there is something to be said that I don't think any of these 5 different extreme sports people are female or any other kind of minority. But heck, that's 1995 for you. It might have made more sense if they had named each of these extreme sports figures, and then that could be waved away as just a coincidence. But when you're drawing new characters, or a little bit of more diversity could be useful. And honestly, this is a table that would probably do better if it did try to sell on sex. So put a biker chick on the motocross one, or I mean, let's back this up a little bit. Like, this table's kind of dull, I do have to say. So I'm not super feeling it, but yeah, let's do a little table exploration. Like, this could be a girl, but I doubt it. This could be a girl, but it says Jay and Bobby and Scott, so I doubt it. This guy could have been a guy, but it says, well, maybe Brando's is not his name. This skier could totally have been a girl. The parachuter could have been a girl, certainly. Like, none of these sports are particularly sports of massive muscle. The driver back there could be a girl. The skier could have been a girl. This could have been a girl, the free climbing. Like, that. Yeah, you could have thrown a bone there. Certainly. And yep. I would have to say, yeah. There's definitely some sports here that could have also been not white guys. Like, looking at the skin tone of every character, they all look the same. The names sound to be white guys. You can't even really make an argument in 1995 that, like, they were using a limited number of colors when painting the back glass or printing things, because this is incredibly colorful. So it's just straight up, for lack of a better word, privileged blindness, where, like, white guys design the tables, all their friends are white guys, and as such they didn't even think about putting anybody that looked different than them in the table. And maybe somebody did think about doing it, but then some old fuddy-duddy CEO would have said maybe no to it because they are directly racist. I mean, you try not to just immediately jump to that assumption, but it is definitely an issue, certainly. As 1995 is the beginning of the end of pinball, they really failed to try and reach for a larger market. Like, clearly. Like, there's a lot going around 1995 that you could have made pinball tables around. There was a lot of fandom around Nintendo and Sega, and you could have had a lot of mascot characters. All kinds of crazy people trying to promote their home video games. It would have made a lot of sense to potentially try and cross-promote. Interesting, as a special mode specifically to disable the Mortal Kombat 3 code, which at a certain point, I imagine a table like No Fear probably lasted longer in the arcade
Welcome to the
than
Hall
Mortal,
of Fame.
Mortal Kombat 3 may have. Although, I think Mortal Kombat 3 was also
Off-road racing.
specifically successful enough that that didn't happen for a lot of people. Alright, so with ball control, when you're in a mode like this,
No pain, no gain. Crash and burn.
let's see what can we really do. We can try and hit cliff. To light the out lane. But that doesn't seem like the cliff mode does just light. Let's see, with the ball control trying to get into the skulls, not really as doable as it seems.
It's extreme skiing. Skull.
Shoot the downhill to win.
So, if we try to line up a shot here,
Dynamite. Do it again.
He's made it to the top.
so you can horseshoe around, you can try for the ramp, or you can go for the skull. Yeah, it's just ridiculous to have so many shots on the table and then they don't actually do anything.
Get moving.
Yeah, one shot can still bounce the ball directly back, which arguably that really highlights where there should be some standing
Water skiing.
targets
Tell him how to
in
do it,
between each
Bonehead.
ramp.
Shoot the tube for more time.
Attack from Mars is also, I think, a lot like this table in the sense that there are a few places that just kind of don't do anything when you're in certain modes. And I would
This guy is smooth.
like to see
Faster.
that fixed.
This guy is nuts. Shoot the tube.
Righteous.
Which one's the tube? You got like everything blinking here, so how you're supposed to really be able to obviously tell which one's the tube.
It's showtime.
Center lane shots. Towards the skull. That's what I'm trying. And ball control for this table's not terrible. That being said, it's still bad enough that trying to hit the skull is not working. It's as if there's something in the way even, but I think it really is just that there's enough corners that you have to get really lucky. See, I did just shoot the skull, but apparently not hard enough. See, this relights the kickback, and it's not uncommon for a standing target on the far right
Go for the tube.
to relight a kickback. But what do you have to do to light the cliff?
This guy is crazy!
See, I can play into the idea of just getting multi-ball over and over again. 400 meters, 500 meters to go. 400 meters. Oh, so you maybe have to hit the cliff multiple times. And clearly the cliff was an idea almost out of desperation, because if that cliff didn't exist, it would just be another sinkhole instead of two standing targets. So hit both of those like massive amount of times, 10 times. There we go. And that gets you to the top.
Go for the win. Over the edge. Nice shot.
I don't know what I'm even supposed to be aiming for, but over the edge is lit.
Yes. Excellent.
So I guess what we'll do
Ball is lit.
is try to get... I mean, I think I need to try and get up the ramps.
Over the edge. Dynamite. Over the edge. Excellent.
Yeah, I think they want me to just hit the left ramp there.
Go for the extra ball.
Video mode. So there is a video mode.
Supercross Racing.
Anaheim. Use the flippers to move left and right. So, am I really having to turn? Do I want to, when you're shooting this? No, you don't really have to turn. So, I think that the goal here is probably to try and get all the scores. I don't know if I'm hitting any of them. Not the greatest video mode ever, but not terrible. Feels like the horseshoe only works if you specifically hit the left part of the horseshoe.
Welcome to racing. How about it, bonehead?
Shoot the track. Win the race.
Outrageous!
There's a replay for a high score.
1A driver.
There's another extra ball.
First loser. Extra ball. Get out.
He takes the checkered flag.
So I think I just did the Asphalt challenge completely.
It's a beautiful day for skydiving. Skull?
So this is the last
Hey, wait now.
challenge.
I've never done this before. Is my parachute on? Where's my record?
Shut up and jump.
And I think you're supposed to hit this first, and that's the first part. And I don't think I ever got that far. And then you're doing this. I think all targets are just lit. I don't think the targets turn off. No, they are turning off. Interesting. But even with the ejector there, and even with ball control, I just managed to bone that up. Advanced Raceway, Flipper Skill Shot, Supercross level. Seems like I can't start any more levels. I'm doing payback time. I think it's just a reward for everything. So it's really just about keeping the ball in play, which I didn't manage to do. I don't know if that just started a... If that started me over on the cliff, though, or if I'm still at the maximum. Let's hit the cliff one more time. 200 meters to go. So, yeah. The cliff is not set well. And in this double multi-ball. Wow. No, it's 1,200 meters to go, not 300. I misread that. All I want to do, though, is start the next level. Sure feels like instead of Advanced Raceway, though, you would want to advance the No Fear is ready to start. I don't know what you do to start it, though. I'd like to advance the climbing and the cliff more than advance the raceway.
Jackpot! Extreme!
Jackpot!
Dynamite! Go for the jump!
Getting a successful jump on this table has proven itself to be pretty impossible. I'm just too slow. It doesn't really give you enough time before it's up to that element. Seriously, what do I need to do to start the No Fear mode, though? Yeah, I'm just not really feeling this table. Not enough that I think I would want to bother to try and once again do all the missions. And see, even cheating, that wasn't a particularly high scoring table. So, could I do this? Eventually, yes. Could I do this? I think eventually, maybe. Could I do this? Almost certainly. Could I start Fearfest? I probably have, but can I get 1,000,000+ points? 100 million+ points? I don't know. Can I get to meet your maker? I don't think so. I think it's just asking a little bit too much.
Welcome to off-road racing. What do you say, Skull?
This really is a table that is too much of a good thing with its fanning out shots. With the too many ramps. Going 3 levels high on ramps is fine, but then feels like you should have maybe overlapped some of the other elements on the table. Like, do you really need the horseshoe around the skull, or could the skull just have been a bigger hole, a bigger sinkhole? Do you really need the cliff thing? Oh, I think it's worth mentioning that some tables actually have a limited number of warnings before you tilt them. I've never really run into that being a real issue for me because I don't nudge that much. But the idea that you might have nudged a ball really, really early and then 5 minutes later on the same ball you nudge again and you tilt doesn't seem to be particularly generous in the spirit of a warning. That being said, there's also plenty of children that would demand a warning every single day to not do something that they've obviously been told a million times not to do, as a way of just getting away with it more often. And there is real logic behind tilting the table in that they don't want to give you free reign to smack a pinball table that's worth thousands of dollars as hard as possible, potentially breaking the table in the process. But I will also draw the line at the idea of demanding that no pinball player ever can never nudge, or setting it so it tilts immediately no matter how lightly you nudge a table, as some arcade owners almost certainly were known to do. Like, if I went to an arcade table and I barely bumped it and it tilted, I would not probably play that game anymore. Or maybe any game at the arcade. Like, arcades were already incredibly greedy, like, at demanding quarters from children to give them penny pieces of plastic toys that they were too young and too stupid to realize were worthless, with all kinds of promotion of gambling via a ticket system. So you have to realize there's a little shadiness there anyways. That's why I think the cover system and free play system is a much better system nowadays for arcades, because you know exactly how much you're going to spend and not a dime more. You're capable of staying there as long as you wish, or at least until the place closes. They still often have tickets and toys, and I've definitely seen some arcades that are half free play. Some of the old machines are free play, but the new machines still give out tickets.
How about it, bonehead?
Move it. Get out. Hurry.
Outrageous! He slams the door on it.
Second place is the first loser.
The thing about this table and its race compared to, say, Indy 500 or the World Championship Soccer is that at least when it does that race mode, it seems like you start in third place and you just have to do a couple of shots to get to first place, not 20 shots. Like, or it was like 25 in World Championship Soccer, and it was very similar. Right. This is the one where I might actually have a chance of succeeding if I can get this shot. I thought Payback Time was a 2-ball multi-ball. I'm weirded out that there's only 1 ball in play. See, I don't think you could probably successfully nudge. Oh, it does start a 2-ball small ball.
Dynamite! Over the edge! Extreme! Smoking!
I have actually got the airplane mode working.
Crash and burn!
Interesting. But I didn't hit both shots. And so without extra ball giving me that 13 seconds back, I assume we just are going to start another level.
It's extreme skiing. Skull.
Shoot the downhill to win!
Well, see, we're up to no fear on a legitimate game. All I would need to do now is figure out how to potentially start no fear as a mode. The whole jump issue is another issue.
He's made it to the top.
It probably is safer to get the out lane lit on the left and via the sinkhole on the far left and random rewards than it is to try and do that by hitting the cliff parts. Although now that I'm in multi-ball mode, that special seems to have disappeared. And I assume it will come back later.
Dynamite!
Well, not a bad final game, but yeah, I'm not super impressed by this table. Its gimmicks don't really connect well, having 5 different sports. Alright, let's see if we can go to the options. Turn off that menu music, that way I won't get content ID claimed by YouTube. Yeah, I feel like
All peers
Wipeout
report to the Sears run.
as a table, which I don't even remember. Yeah, no, this table's too weird too to be a good comparison. I wouldn't want to play that one either. And of the sports ones, I think Whitewater and World Championship Soccer are about the only ones that are actually that good. Wet Willie's tells, Whitewater tells what a much better and interesting story. It has characters, it has a Yeti, it has people drawn on it. It's much more relatable in my mind than all the other sports tables. If we start to look at like some of these other older sports tables, there's not really that many that were highlighted. When you let's skip over things like billiards, physical sports, I mean. Let's see, Bonsai Run in 1988, I think is a way more interesting table. And it definitely highlights a lack of of real insanity when you have an entire table on the backboard like this, and then that's never done again. Of course, this may have cost a lot to design. Each of these characters, somebody different. Bluebeard looks like Mr. T, although he's kind of pale. Red Hot is a girl. And see, they're all doing motocross. There's specific goals and tricks you're shooting for. I'm not sure you have to actually hit all three of the colors. I think you do, actually, to start each race and then complete each race. I think there's something to be said about just having a generic background, too, of just checkerboard patterns, where we've seen a lot of tables have just gotten flooded with art. But yeah, this is a more simplistic table in that there's just more in this upper playfield that's opened, and there's way more variety here. You've got a trout ball, you've got standing targets of different colors, you've got the 3 pop-up bumpers, you got sinkhole, you got top lane. We've seen basically no top lane in the last 3 tables we've covered. You've got a spinner, you've got a ramp that ramps it to the top lane, and then you've got this sinkhole that you can access either via that ramp if you're lucky, or here, and then you've got a magnet that comes down and picks up the ball and creates a second game, which is in itself a simplistic pinball table that has multi levels, but it still does something great. You have this whole captive ball here that plays itself, which that's an idea at least. I don't know if there would be, let's see, that is a favorited table. Any other tables that we've even played that's been particularly sports related that I'd want to mention? No. I don't think there is a single sports related thing. I am a little proud of myself that I haven't decided to go back and play Twilight Zone or Star Trek. I did hear someone mention that Star Trek The Next Generation and Twilight Zone are kind of the tables everybody's looking for because they're talked about a lot. There might be some truth to that. They may not be the tables that actually play as nice in the real world as some other tables that are lesser known and underrated. That being said, I think looking for underrated tables because they're cheaper, it's not really the attitude if you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars really to own a pinball table and maintain a pinball table. You want what you really want. And see, this is technically an extreme sports table, and it highlights a point that that No Fear really did not learn, that you can just have like one loop around and one ramp, and then one ramp there, and then something that's kind of a ramp but isn't quite a ramp here, and then a sinkhole instead of it being a ramp that feeds back to another loop around. I think if you're going to have a cross shot flipper, it almost certainly needs to be on the main table and not higher up. And if you want to do a jump, something like this that accelerates it would have been able to do the jump concept way better. Whereas Whitewater, I guess, kind of, if we go back to Whitewater, we're going in circles at this point. I still think High Speed 2 is the best table of the potential options. But yeah. Whitewater does also have an upper playfield jump here, but it slows down the ball quite a bit so that you can actually hit it, which that No Fear did not do. It has a very wide split here, so where it goes one way or the other. It has a extremely tall shot if you go to the left to get up to this ramp that goes up, then comes down, and then comes up again, which No Fear could have done a similar concept around that. Certainly. But yeah, I definitely would want to see more time and a better shot. This shot does not require anywhere as much power because of the angles here to make it get up to even this point. So yeah, I think there's room for tweaks, to say the least. Room for tweaks. Let's
never quit.
see what the leaderboards say, since we pretty much are looking at that. So overall, you have all-time someone at 300 million and 278 million. Both of those probably cheaters. And then it quickly jumps to 95 million, billion, and then 73 billion and 50. Then so much little, so fewer points. This was not a high scoring table by any means. I could feel that. Like, I am still in the top 5,000, 3,653 to get 1.8 billion, which that seems like a respectable score for a table I don't like. I am kind of running into that same issue over and over again, that a lot of tables that I don't like, I'm doing fairly well with them. Weekly, playing this on a Thursday, I've gotten 7th place with 1.8 billion. Of what I would like to see is how many people have even played this table. 34. So yeah, on a Thursday, only 34 people have played this table in total. Monthly, I'm 22nd. And on the 15th day of a month, how many people have played this? If only 30 have played in a week, you almost assume that it's going to be 120. Yeah, that would be right, wouldn't it? 30 times 4. Yeah, almost directly on the nose. So yeah, this is the worst played table we've seen so far in the collection. So apparently the theme and the fashion of No Fear has no interest whatsoever. Now, how much of that has to do with it being crammed between Frankenstein and Theater of Magic, I don't know. How much does it have to do with it, brand recognition being absolutely negative at this point? I don't know. Or just confusion in general. Like, looking at this table and seeing No Fear, that meant nothing to me every time I saw it. I didn't know it was going to be a sports themed table. If anything, it looks to me like it would be some kind of Marvel game around, who is it? Ghost Rider with the flaming skull. Although Daredevil is the man without fear in the Marvel universe. So it would almost be a crossover between that. But yeah, the icon's not pulling anybody's attention. Next time we will play Theater of Magic, and then Whodunit, and then we'll be done with that row. And we're still in 95, so pretty much it just says that somewhere around 96, 97, they stopped making any pinball tables that they decided to curate. Unless this is a case that Pinball Arcade lost the licenses to tables and they were working up chronologically through the years to tables. I don't think that's the truth, because I know for a fact there was a crash as far as pinball tables in the 90s, and there's only a few more years left for that to have happened. But then it does seem like it might be a far jump between 1998 for Monster Bash and 2000 for Star Trek. Boy, does that feel like there would be a much bigger gap between those two. Like, instead of just 2 years. But, a lot of things, I guess, happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. And clearly there aren't that many tables that came out past the 2000s, because we have like 9 between 2000 and 2016. There definitely are some new tables that would have made a lot of sense to include and continue adding. So I definitely will have to check Pinball FX3 and see what's new there as far as tables, and see if they have a decent curation. The most disappointing thing that could possibly happen here is I play all these tables, then I go look at Pinball FX3 or the Pinball FX reboot when it comes out, and realize that they don't have the license to that many tables either. And if there are any other tables or emulators around, they almost certainly are going to be lesser known and lesser complete instances, and you might have to buy a bespoke game to play several Stern games, and then a different bespoke game to play several more Stern games, and then a different bespoke game to play several Williams games. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.